Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hyrulian Hijinks, episode number 5 of maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
I reckon we got at least another 2 in us.
That's my vague estimate at this point. Probably,
Yeah.
definitely. I'd say 2 more on top of these, and then
Yeah.
so at least 7, maybe 8.
Yeah.
I'm Ben. Sorry, I just took a sip of my coffee at the worst possible time as I was introing the show, which is just incredibly professional on my part.
Very good. I'm Josh.
Yeah, you are Josh. You are
Not
indeed
drinking
Josh.
coffee.
Not
Yeah.
drinking coffee because it's 5:47 p.m. and what sane person drinks coffee at that
That's
hour of the
right.
day? I'm streaming later
don't.
tonight, so I got to
don't
get some
drink.
energy.
That's fair. I don't drink coffee at all, so there's that too.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's another week. More Zelda. A lot of Zelda.
Another week.
A lot of Zelda for both of us.
I think we both played a lot of Zelda, which is great.
Yeah, it
it's
could be a
also-
beefy one. If you're listening
Yeah.
right now, you've probably already seen the run length, but this could be long.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, as we sort of did, I don't know if we started last week, but I decided that I would update everyone on my current stats,
Yep.
the things I've done, my upgrades and stuff.
Yep.
So I've now got 23 hearts.
Yep.
So I'm in the second row and I've got 3 more. I have two full batteries. Last week I only had 1 2/3. So I got one extra slot because I've spent basically no time in the underground.
Yep.
So I've gotten barely any extra stuff to upgrade that thing. I've done 86 shrines. I have 66 Korok seeds. I don't think that's many more. That's probably a bit more than last week. And I have 3,100 rupees when I had less than 1,000 last week.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. I've done a lot of side missions that have paid well. Yes.
I have 68 shrines, so still less than you. 19 hearts.
Okay.
2 2/6 of a stamina bar.
Okay. 2/6.
So like I've got 2 and then I've gotten 2 more upgrades. I got 2 full wheels and then 2 more upgrades on top of that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
I think this, or maybe they're in fifths. Maybe it's a fifth of a stamina. Maybe 2 and 2/5 of stamina. Anyway.
Yep.
19 hearts. I now have 6 full batteries plus 1 extra bit on top.
Dang. Have you been in the underground, Ben?
Perhaps I have. We'll get to that in a moment.
Wow.
I also have 40 light roots.
Wow. That's way. Yeah, I have like 11, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't bother.
I
with
had
that
like
because it hasn't
16
changed,
last
but-
time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I've only got 11. So dang, man.
74 Korok seeds, which I don't think has gone up very meaningfully since last week. And I'm at 394 rupees, which I was at like 900 last week.
Yeah.
But it's not because I've just hemorrhaged money. I bought a bunch of stuff for my house.
Nice.
So
I've done 0 house.
I mainly
things,
bought
so-
some like armor and weapon stands, so like my special ones I could put up around there.
Cool.
So
Nice.
so yeah, I mean, I can go more into that, but I figure it'll lead into the next thing and we'll get talking about it. So
Yeah.
what were our little
absolutely.
goals?
So, last week, I wrote down both Ben and my to-do list. I should have sent this to you, Ben. so
Yeah,
that you
and we
could
should have
seen
been
them.
doing this from the start, but again,
Probably.
if we do future versions of this kind of podcast, we know now. But yeah,
It's a fresh concept. So
Yeah.
here we go. My list in order was say hi to the Zelda dragon. I didn't do that.
No?
I didn't do that. Is the Zelda dragon the only dragon around?
no, all of
The only
all
flying
the
dragon.
all of the ones from the previous games are also around.
Okay, where exactly would I find the Zelda one? Over near where the tear dropped.
Yeah, most likely very high up in the air over there.
Yeah. Okay,
but-
sure.
If you do the quest line in the Great Forest, near there's a Great Deku Tree quest line, similar to other games, and if you do that quest line that also gets the dragon to fly low. So there's 2 times when that dragon will fly low. It's when you finish those memories, and then also when you do that quest line. So that'll get the dragon to fly a lot lower. Otherwise, you have to go really high up in the sky to get it.
Okay, well, in that case...
That's on your list for next week.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that quest line later. The Gerudo Temple was next on my list.
Yep.
I am currently about to defeat Queen Gibdo at the end of the temple.
This is a weird name, Gibdo. Yeah,
it is.
Cool.
It is.
Wow, Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I've done most of it. I'm literally like, I've died once to it.
Yeah.
And when I respawned, I just stopped the game.
Yeah.
Because I had to work again after my lunch break.
That's a shame.
Yes. I wanted to visit a bunch of the stables to follow the newspaper quest lines. Finished all of them.
Very good.
Which is the whole newspaper quest line. So I've got the whole climby stuff.
Really? Is that how you
outfit.
get all that outfit? Is by doing all the newspaper stuff? Because I haven't finished that quest line.
Okay, so there's I think there's 12. I think there's 12 newspaper
12
quests
stables,
to
12
do.
newspapers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think every 4 of those missions you get another piece.
Yeah. Cool.
And then your pay increases over time as well, so you get more and more and more money. Which is
I've
why I
got
have
2
so
of
much
those
money.
pieces, so I'm not too far from that.
Cool. Yeah, nice. I wanted to do more monster control team missions. Done. Finished them all.
Nice. I still only did one of them.
All of the ones that I've... Okay. all of the ones that I've seen, all of the ones that I had missions for.
Yeah, cool.
I'm pretty sure I've finished all of those. So I don't know how many there are, but yeah. I wanted to do the fairy fountain things with the musicians. Done. All of them.
Oh my good. Look at you.
Got all the fairy fountains, but I still haven't upgraded a single piece of armor. I haven't used... all of the fairies are like, I can upgrade some stuff for you. And I'm like, I'm going to see you later. And then I disappear. Because I don't feel like I have any armor that I want upgraded in the way of like actual defense.
We'll get onto this later because we had a chat with Nicrotex in the Discord about this.
We did. The Star Island things in the sky, taking the pictures and going to Kakariko Village. I went to one of them.
Okay. I was about to say, you've done all of them too?
No.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one, but I did end up, I think I just, sometimes to get around, like to get to a place where I don't have a shrine to fast travel to close by, I just go to one of those towers and shoot up and then glide there.
Yeah.
That's generally how I get around to go far distances instead of running. So that's why I don't care about stamina that much. And then I also have the full like gliding outfit, so you can glide really far.
Oh wow! I only got the first bit of that you get, but
yeah, right. I've had that for a little while now. But it's cool. Those little missions are cool, but it just means you can glide everywhere really well and like you can glide far. And increased batteries, like I said, I've only increased by 1/3 because I haven't really been in the underground.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Cool. Ben's to-do list.
Yep.
Your list was the last fairy fountain.
Yes, I did that.
Did it? Nice.
Yeah. So I've done that, and have I fully upgraded anything? I might have fully upgraded like one piece of armor or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. You wanted to do some more shrines to increase your stats, which it sounds like you've done.
A little bit. Not much. I got 2 more hearts, I think, from last time, which, was fine.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more in a second because it's interesting, given what I have done.
Nice. I'm gonna swap 2 of them around. One of them was you still weren't motivated to explore the sky.
But
still,
did a sky ball.
Hey, did a sky ball.
Look at that character progression. Finally, did a sky ball. It was just one with a crystal in the middle that you had to like catapult out to a shrine.
Yes.
I think you talked about doing that one already.
Yeah, I think I did that one. Yeah.
but that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. They're fairly... They sort of look more significant than they actually are.
Totally.
It's like, oh man, Skyball, what the hell's in there? And it's like, not really that much.
Yeah. But yeah, didn't spend much time in the sky again. Spent a lot of time in the depths. And
apparently, which was the next one, exploring the depths. Is your next...
So, yeah. So, and I won't say too much because it'll also tie into the last bit. But I did decide... I think one of the first things I did in this past week was I was like, all right, I'm going to explore the depths more. I'm going to finish this, like, I'm going to follow this Master Koga storyline to its completion.
That's one thing I want to do too.
So I did that, and that was a good way to really start, like, fleshing out my depths map.
Nice.
It didn't fully flesh it out, but it definitely helped. And obviously I said earlier, I have, like, a bit over 6 full batteries at this point. That was when I really started to get the resources for those batteries, because that quest line gives you like a ton of the crystallized charges things. Like, so you don't even have to refine the zonite; it just gives you the charges that you can then make into like bigger things. So yeah, that was kind of that was how that happened. But then I also spent a bunch more time in the depths for other reasons. The next reason I spent a bunch more time in the depths was I kept talking to the bargaining statue at Lookout Landing, which will tell you where to find all the other bargaining statues. So it gave me those markers on the map. So the next thing I was like, well, I'm just going to go find all the bargaining statues. And there's like 6 or 7 of them in the depths. So that, again, helped flesh that out a bunch. It was quite interesting getting to some of them, I'll say. It was a fun little adventure. And they all line up with where, you know, those like... Springs of the Mother are on the surface, you know, where like the Mother statue, but specifically like the springs, including like the horse god spring and stuff. They all correspond with where a Bargner statue is underground again. So it's another one of those echoes underneath. So you realistically don't even have to pay for the guy to tell you where they all are, because you could mark it on your map like that. But it's a quicker way of getting that done. So that was good.
Cool.
And then the next reason I spent a bunch of time in the depths is what was my other thing, Josh?
Your last thing is just maybe more of the same story. The main story, sorry.
Yeah, so last week I had done the E4. I just completed the Gerudo Shrine and had done the little mini thing you have to do after that. And then I had kind of left it at that point, being like, well, I'll resume the main story later. I'm going to go and do some other stuff. As I just said, did some other stuff, but then I was like, nah, I'm just playing the main story. I'm just doing it. I'm going, and basically over the course of the weekend, powered through the rest of the main story. Not really because I was like aiming to do it, but I think I messaged you on like Saturday night or something, or Sunday morning, being like, it's going to be a big hijinks because I think I'm going to finish the game today.
Sunday morning.
And that was because I had literally just like, I kept wanting to like follow it on, do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. And then I eventually got to the point where it was like, fight Ganon. It's not really a spoiler, surprise, you fight Ganon. And I was like, no, I'm just going to go do it. I'm just going to go do it. I did a little, before I went and fought him, I did a little like, used all my resources. So I had a bunch of like shrine things saved up. So I went and got a couple extra hearts. I went and upgraded every piece of armor that I could in case any of it would come in useful. I like farmed a few like high tier enemies so that I could like get some good fused weapons. So all my weapons were fused with like a silver horn of something or all that kind of stuff. So I did a bit of prep work. I was like, I'm going to go in ready. And then I think basically Sunday night, I went and fought Ganon. So I beat the game at about like 1:30 a.m. on Monday morning.
Awesome.
But yeah, and surprisingly, and not surprisingly at all, it's brilliant. It's just fantastic. It's the payoff is amazing, and like it doesn't. I wouldn't say it like fumbles the setup it's doing or anything. It all works, like it all comes together really well. And I think we've talked about on this podcast before about how Breath of the Wild strength wasn't necessarily in its story. it's good enough, but the strength was everything else it did for Zelda and open world games and all that kind of thing. But like, again, as we've talked about over and over again, I feel like at this point, Tears of the Kingdom is the full package. Like, this is, I wouldn't maybe say it's like all-time great video game stories, but it's very good. And in a game of this size, that's like very impressive. And it was very emotional in both like sad and happy ways.
Cool.
And I think that's like, you know, that's everything you wanted. And not even like specifically the ending, but obviously I played a decent chunk of the story this week because there's a whole extra little adventure you've got to go on after you finish the 4 initial temples. So I had to do that bit as well. I don't want to get too much into on this one. We'll probably talk about it in the next one because I suspect you'll be up to that point by then.
I think so, yeah.
But
that'll be my main focus.
But yeah, that part of the game was also kind of genuinely a highlight, and like part of it wasn't a surprise because I'd seen a slight spoiler, but even having that one part of it spoiled, which was a little bit, probably brought it down a little bit for me, it was still like such a cool reveal, and like the reasoning behind it and all those kind of things was super cool. Very excited to talk to you a bit more about that when we get to that point. But again, probably won't be able to go too much more into what that main story stuff in this one. We'll cover it in a future podcast once you get there. Which I get the feeling within a couple weeks you're going to be there. Maybe not next week, but I if not next week, definitely the week after, I think. And you know, that'll be fun. We'll get to talk all about that. But what I can say is that it's fantastic. And I'm not disappointed that I did it at the point of the game at which I did it, because obviously you got a lot more hearts than me. You've finished a bunch of the side quest things I haven't even finished. And one of the things we talked about was like, would I feel the motivation to go back and play it afterwards? I will say I haven't played it since Monday, but it's Tuesday when we're recording this.
Yep.
But I'm definitely keen to go back and dabble a little bit, finish off some of those side quests, keep building out my house, because I got a little bit. So I am definitely going to go back in and like keep exploring the world, fight some of like the bigger enemies and stuff, because there's plenty of like mini bosses and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that motivation hasn't gone. I was just very much at a point where I was like, I want to see where it goes, and then I'll go and do all the other stuff, but I want to see where it goes. And the thing about these games is you can, because it sends you, similar to Breath of the Wild, will send you back to before that final fight. I can go fight him again if I want to. I can see that all again if I want to. If for some reason I'm like, you know, if I want to experience that. So I think that's kind of like, it's the carrot at the end of the stick, is I can like level myself fully up again and then do it one more time, run it back one last time, you know? And I've also heard that once you do get all the shrines, which I think I've said before, but I think I'm going to go for it this time. I've heard there's a pretty decent carrot there hanging off the end of the stick as well.
Sick.
So I don't know if we'll make podcast content out of that, because I might be chipping away at that one for a while. But maybe far in the future, we'll do a catch up when we've maybe both done that or something, if we both get to that point. But yeah, game's good. Who would have thought?
So good. It's so good.
So freaking good. And like the way the systems kind of come together as the course of the story goes on and stuff. I felt myself doing very smart things towards the end of the game. I will say, as the main story went on and as I play the game more, I'm engaging less and less with the building.
Sure.
I think because it's just the creations people are making are great. But I don't have that part of my brain isn't as big as those people's brain. And I know there'll often be I need a vehicle for a specific function, and I'll make the simplest version of that vehicle, because 100%. If I put too much more thought into it, it's just going to stress me out. And so I'm like, I appreciate that it's there, the tools that it's giving me. I'm like, this is sick. This is amazing. It's crazy they've made it work. But I'm also happy at this point to just not engage with it too much beyond how I have at this point, which is just like saving some stuff to my auto build, kind of, you know, like the hover bike and stuff, and just using those things. But yeah, but yeah, game's good. Systems are crazy. That's all I have to say about finishing the game, which is a lot. But yeah.
Yeah. Sick. It sounds so good. I'm so excited to get to the end of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a talk to you about it.
Totally. And there's a good road ahead of you, and I'm excited almost to like have a little drip feed talk of that now, because I feel like the logical thing for us to talk about now is the Gerudo stuff, because you're most of the way through that.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about kind of what you've been doing there, and then I'll chip in?
Yeah, for sure. So I went in. What is it? I think I've only got like 2 shrines in the area.
Yeah.
Because to start with, there's like a big sandstorm, so you can barely see anything anywhere.
Yeah.
But I saw there was one near like a little camp of people.
Yep.
I went and did that one, chatted to some people. And then I could see one in the distance, I think. Well, there was like a tornado or something that I went and jumped in, and it shot me up in the air.
Yep, totally.
Something weird. And then when I was up there, I could see a shrine in the distance near Gerudo town, city, village, whatever it's called. Yeah. So I went over and did that one, and then started like exploring the area.
Yeah.
There's one person in Gerudo town who is not a Gerudo.
Yeah.
And they're like some sort of explorer sort of person.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it seems like all the Gerudo have gone underground.
Yeah.
So I went into the main little castle thing where the royalty is.
Yeah.
Towards the back of that is a well, and there was something covering the well, so I lifted it off.
Yeah.
And I jumped down, and they freaked out. And they're like, it's a vo, which means it's a boy.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. Boys aren't allowed there. And then...
No boys allowed.
The current... That's right. The current queen, princess, whoever she is...
Yeah.
Is like, nah, leave him alone. He's fine. And then you start working with her on this... The sandstorm, I guess.
The sandstorm.
The weird new
sandstorm.
monsters.
The one thing to mention about the sandstorm, for those who are following along but maybe not playing, is the sandstorm is it also like completely ruins your map, so you can't see anything on your map. It like gets rid of all your like markers and all that stuff. So when you're in the sandstorm, you can't see anything. So it's really annoying. And the only way you can kind of get out of that is there are tornadoes going up that you can fly up into and kind of get a bird's eye view and get your bearings. But yeah, so the kind of what you do with Lady Regia, I think is her name.
Yep.
Is
sounds about right.
She is on a mission to learn how to stop the sandstorm, and there's also these enemies that are appearing called the Gibdos, which is a weird name.
It is a very strange name. It doesn't roll off the tongue very nicely.
Yeah. It was a fun little puzzle initially when I was going to the Gerudo town and I was coming across those Gibdos and trying to work out how the heck to attack them. Because compared to other enemies, you'll immediately notice that, like, it's basically, they are pretty much immune to most kinds of damage. And then you quickly learn that elemental damage gets rid of their, like, outer shield. And then they're weakened.
I didn't come across any of them.
Oh, really? On your way?
No, I did. I don't think I came across any of them until after I met the Lady Regia.
Wow, that's impressive. I definitely came across them and I was like...
Or I just ran away from them and didn't bother to kill them yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if I worked it out until later on, but I definitely tried to attack a few when I was on the way and was like, what the heck? These are like immune to everything. So yeah, I thought that was fun. And then...
Yeah, and then they all come out of like these mushroom nests, these giant mushrooms, which can only... Well, I don't know if they can only be defeated this way with Lady Regia. I feel like that is the case. I haven't tried to like shock it myself or anything, but you can only use it by asking Lady Regia to send out like sort of charge up like a shockwave. Yeah. And that sends out this radius of electricity slowly over time. and when the enemies or the object that you want to destroy is within that radius, you shoot an arrow at it.
Yeah.
And then Lady Regia is able to focus her power on the arrow and shock that thing. And
calls down a big old thunder thing.
Huge lightning strike.
So yeah, I think I'm not sure if just
like
a normal like shock arrow would work on the thing on the mushrooms. I didn't try it either, but I think it is because she's calling down a full on like thunder strike on it. That's maybe how it works. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I never tested that specifically. But I thought her ability is quite fun and probably maybe a bit more unique than the others, I'd say. I don't know. They're all somewhat unique, but I think hers was one of the most fun to play around with. And I feel like it's very
cool.
I feel like her ability is very involved in that story in a way that maybe not all the other ones are, which I think was cool.
Yeah, because like maybe the Goron is the other one that's
okay. No, now I'm thinking about it. The wind guy was pretty integral. Maybe they were all integral. I don't know.
Yeah. They came up with good mechanics and a lot of puzzles and things.
Totally. I guess hers felt like it had immediate impact and stuff. So that was
cool. And it's so powerful. You can use it for anything. Like
totally.
It's really good. So then you end up
tower defense. You get to do tower defense of Gerudo
do some tower defense.
Which is freaking cool.
Well, that's after the puzzle, the light puzzle that you do.
Is it? I thought it was before that.
Oh, is it?
I think it's just before that. I think the light puzzle is afterwards.
Maybe it is.
Because you reveal the temple then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a
true.
There's a whole thing where the Gibdos are starting to assault the town, and they're like mushrooms are popping up everywhere, and so they're like, you need to prep the town for defenses. So you get to like choose where some allies are going to be. Some of the Gerudos choose where to place them, and then they choose where to place a cannon and stuff. And it's fun and silly, and I enjoyed that.
It's cool. It's very cool. It wasn't hard either, but it was just like it was a fun little thing to just run back and forth within this small town and
totally,
and take out these guys. I think whenever I have these situations, like whenever there's a bunch of enemies, I always just go straight for the mushrooms first.
Yeah, no, totally. That's definitely the way to go, because otherwise it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, otherwise, enemies just keep coming out of the freaking mushrooms. So I was just completely avoiding all of them.
Yeah.
Which I did try to do in the second half of the Gibdo Queen thing. But I got a couple of hits early on that just absolutely destroyed my health.
Yeah. So that's at the end of the temple. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So in between that...
back to... Yep.
Yeah, back to... So we did tower defense. Tower defense was fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a little, like, shake-up to the formula that I thought was quite fun.
Yeah.
I have to say, this game's been really strong in all its, like, pre-temple bits. Like, I think back, like, the wind and the water ones were a lot of, like, climbing up into the sky, because both of them are based in the sky, but each of them had its own fun little mechanic that was really, like, enjoyable to do.
Yeah,
and then
totally.
The Goron Temple one had like the full-on like monster fight at the top of the mountain, which was also great. And then
I feel like there's just that little bit extra in this than it had in Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild had like a bit of a challenge to get to the temple, but it wasn't much, and there wasn't much of a story to it.
Totally.
Comparatively, like the water one is the one that I remember most.
The other one I was
get to, because you've got to use a lot of like waterfalls and
totally. The other one I was going to mention, because I don't really remember much for the Goron or the what's the other one, the Rito one, but Rito? I do remember for the Gerudo one, that was where you went to the Yiga clan base and stuff, because you had to get the helmet back.
Yeah, that's true.
But again, there wasn't as much of a concerted effort as there has been in this game. That's almost like each of the regions is a package of like the mystery, the lead up to the temple, or like the in-between bit, and then the temple itself, which felt like a nice big package.
Yeah, there's always like 3 parts to it. I feel like the other one had 2. It was just like, we have to get to the thing. We're in the thing.
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, there's kind of like a side thing where you're
Yeah.
like helping a community out somehow,
Yeah.
and then getting to the thing, which is like
Yeah.
a whole bunch of extra puzzles,
Yeah.
and using the ability as well,
Yeah.
a whole bunch in that, and then the actual temple itself. It's really cool.
It's
love
very
it.
well. It's good design. It's good design in 3 parts. They're doing the thing.
Yeah, and I have been loving, or have loved the Gerudo temple.
Yeah.
There was some really great challenges in there that it took me a while. Mostly just like looking for secret entrances or,
Yeah.
having to pull a rock out of a wall and things like that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that has taken me, like, it took me probably way too long.
Yeah. Totally.
But I think I did pretty much all of it in about 45 minutes today.
Except the boss.
Except the boss.
Yeah. No,
About 45 minutes.
I love.
Yeah.
I love the temple itself. I think it's probably my favorite of the temples. I'm still trying to work out.
Might have
Yeah.
said that last week as well.
I'm still trying to work out as a whole package which one is my favorite. I think it's still water, but this one's close, and maybe we'll squeak it out once I come back a little bit. But I love the temple itself, the like light puzzles and having to find those like secret entrances within the temple itself to kind of climb your way up. I thought was very,
and
very
always
cool.
like ways to get the light to actually shine. Because there's various like giant light sources in places, and you need to place a bunch of mirrors to reflect that light onto like a target.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them around, and you initially, every time you want to do that, you initially have to find where the light source is and unblock the light source
Yeah.
so that it actually shines into a location. And then you got to find a bunch of mirrors, which is usually like hidden in piles of sand. So you have to get like a weapon with a big flap on it so you can...
Totally. Well, this is where I found it fun that I actually just end up using Tulin's ability a lot to clear out the piles of sand.
Oh, that's so... Damn it. Oh my gosh, that's so smart.
Like, the fact
I didn't even think of that.
I think it's cool like that those systems, like obviously you can do it with like fans and stuff. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. You could get like a Korok gust. I think there's like leaves that are around the place that they purposely placed there so you can do that. But then I was like, hang on, I've got a big wind gust guy. And so one wind gust of his got rid of all the piles.
Damn it. I didn't even think of that.
If I lined it up well. And I was like,
Nice.
I have many issues with the Sage system. Namely that it's so janky in how it's actually implemented. Because it's just like, they're all running around you. By the time you get to the end of the game, there's just so many things running around you. And you try and press A on one and then you press A on another, or you try to pick up something on the ground and then Tulin blows his wind and blows the stuff all over. It's annoying as heck. They had a good system in the first game. And
We see that noise.
Totally. They had a good system in the first game. Makes no sense that they made it worse. There's also like space on the wheel, seemingly for where you could put a Sage thing, but instead they're like, no, you know what? We're just gonna put the map there.
Stupid.
And so I think where this game improved in so many elements, the implementation of that system did suck. But then at the same time, I think it's very cool having those companions with you throughout the game. I rarely actually turned them off because it was still kind of fun, the novelty of it, having them all around me and fighting with me and stuff. So I think like, and the fact that I was then like, oh, I've done a bunch of temples. I can use one of this ability, one of the earlier abilities to help me in this temple. Or I assume maybe if I did this at the start and then I went and did another temple, maybe one of those abilities would help me in one of them. So I think that's the very cool like factor of that all that I think is, don't know how intentional the design is, but it felt good that I had that light bulb moment and I was like, I don't need to use any vans or anything, I could just do this.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to like the fact that you could have done this like first. There was a guy on the Sans Pants Radio podcast, Thumb Cramps, who did the Gerudo temple first.
Would be freaking hard.
Yeah. He said it was really, really hard. But he managed to get through it. and he didn't have the gusty thing, so he would have had to use weapons and stuff, which is also what I did. But he wouldn't have known that was even an option.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe he would have changed his playstyle. Maybe we all would have changed our playstyle if we did it differently.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Totally. Very cool.
You can just
Very
approach all of these things however you want.
Mm.
So that's good. Looking forward to getting back and actually finishing this temple and just probably pushing straight on with main story stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very excited. I feel very motivated to do that. I have a bunch of other comments about the other random stuff that I've done.
Yep.
I got Zelda's horse. That was part of the one of the side mission things.
Yep.
One of the newspaper ones.
Yep.
So I got Zelda's horse, which is cool. It's very big. Took me a little bit to track down, but eventually found it.
Yep.
Which is cool. I totally cheesed the biggest boss of the Hyrulian village pirate thing.
Yep.
Totally cheesed it. I stood off to the side.
Yeah.
And there was a black boss, which is like one of the giant, the really big moblin things.
Mm-hmm.
And it just constantly, I don't know where it was getting them from, but from the top of the pirate ship, it was ripping giant rocks out of the top of the pirate ship.
Yep, it was.
And threw it down, and I just kept reversing them until it died.
Amazing.
Took,
Is that cheese or is that intended design?
Who knows? Who knows? But it did take me probably about 10 minutes. Because I don't think it did much damage each time I reversed it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not going near that thing. I got time.
Totally.
I just kept reversing it and eventually killed it. And that was the last... I think there was a couple of little guys on that ship that I had to kill. But yeah, it was cool. I love that you can do that. You can just cheese these things and it totally works.
Totally. Very cool. I think, and one of the coolest experiences... one of the earliest experiences in this game, which was also a very cool experience that got me very excited about the game early on, was I remember it was the first or second day I played it, and I just came across a camp of moblins, and I can't remember if they threw much stuff at you in the first game. There was definitely they would throw some stuff at you, but not to the extent that I feel like they do in this game. Because
a stone or something.
Yeah, I specifically feel like they throw more stuff at you in this game so that you can reverse it back at them.
Yeah.
And I had the funniest moment where I was in a lake and in an island in the middle of the lake, and there was a moblin, a big moblin with a bunch of goblins around in a camp on the edge of the lake, and I managed to get it to see me, and then I was then it noticed me and was like, I'm going to start throwing stuff at you, but eventually it ran out of stuff to throw, and so I just started throwing goblins at me, but they would just land in the water in front of me and just keep dying. And I was
good.
This is the funniest thing. I think I got a video of it, so I'll bring it up on the actual podcast when it comes out. But it was so freaking funny. And then I think at one point in that, I tried to reverse one back onto it or anything to see if it did damage. It's funny little moments like that they didn't have to. That didn't have to be the game, but someone thought, wouldn't it be funny if they started throwing each other at you?
Yeah.
So
good.
It's so damn good. Yeah.
I can love this. So straight after that, I restored Hyrulian village, however you pronounce that.
Yep.
So I restored it, so you had to get a bunch of logs and a bunch of rice.
Yep.
And then go around to 4 or 5 different buildings, maybe 6, and help this guy, put a giant log in place or get some debris out of the flooding building and stuff like that. Very cool, very fun. So went through, did all of that, which was lovely. I have some really nice comments, just some little fine touches that I just absolutely loved when I was going through this.
Yep.
When you find all the different musicians, pretty much every stable, I think every stable you go to, they're playing there. and you can go and talk to them individually. So all these
Yeah.
musicians, they're constantly playing a song, and it's usually like a, gypsy jazz sort of version of a theme song from Zelda, which is very fun. There's little bits like that. There's
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there's like sometimes the flute player
Yeah.
in, like, when you first talk to the flute player is like playing along with the backing track
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Oh, I did
yeah,
want to
when
talk
you
about
go-
the flute guy,
Yeah.
actually, because I just thought his little. So the flute guy is the last guy you get to join the band for like the final fairy. And he had this beautiful little bit where he was like trying to light up a tree for his friend.
Yeah.
And the
Who
end
wanted
of
to see a glowing tree.
He wanted to see a glowing tree, and so you collect a bunch of fireflies for him, and then give them back to him. And there's just this glorious little like cutscene moment of just this
Yeah.
tree lit up with fireflies, and the fireflies all flying away. And I was like, that was out of nowhere. What the heck?
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
this random, like, super beautiful side story.
Yeah, totally.
It was cool. Yeah. I like in that as well that he's like, I tried to do this already. And so I tried to, like,
Light a tree on fire.
the tree on fire. And it just caused a huge issue.
Yeah.
Very, very funny. There's some great stuff in this. But yeah, when you have all the musicians, they're all playing everywhere, and you can go and talk to them individually.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that instrument drops out of the band
Oh,
because they've stopped to talk to you.
Wow. Yeah.
So like
That's
the
cool.
violin will stop
Yeah.
playing, but everyone else will keep playing because they're still playing and you're only talking to the violinist.
Yeah.
So it's like it's such a fine little touch. But yeah, I went and talked to each of them, and yeah, you can just listen to the song like without the drums or without the flute or without the violin. Very cool. Another one, before I get onto like a bigger story about a side quest that I very much enjoyed and had some funny stuff. Depending on the time of day or the weather, when you talk to random people, they will initially comment about the time of day or the weather, which
Yeah,
is
they
really
do.
cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So when I finished all of the newspaper stuff, you have to go back to the newspaper office headquarters thing near Gerudo Village.
Yeah.
And I think it must have been like 1 or 2 a.m. or something. And I walked in and the editor was like, "Oh, you're working late." Like just a tiny little comment like that.
Yeah. I often
then they just
found,
continue.
I noticed that the most whenever I would go to talk to like Penn, the newspaper bird, and often you'd arrive at a stable and it'd be raining and he'd be like, "Wow, you're out working in the rain," because everyone else like walks inside during the rain, which is
Yeah.
also a cool thing. But then he's
Yes.
like, "Oh, you're out in the rain working hard," and it's like,
Yep.
"Yeah, I am. Thank you."
Yeah, the other one was the rain thing, and
Yeah.
back onto the mission with the flute player trying to light up this tree for this little girl. When I got him all the fireflies and gave them to him, he was like, "Oh, can you go get the girl?" So I went to the stable, but it was raining, and when I spoke to her, she's like, "You want me to go out in this rain? Absolutely not!" And she just like sat there and just you couldn't do the mission until it stopped raining.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Which is just like a funny little thing. So yeah, it was really cool. I enjoyed that. I enjoy the little touches that absolutely did not need to be there.
Yeah.
But it just, I guess it makes the world feel more alive because they're very aware of their surroundings, time of day and weather.
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
just, all the little
unique
touches
little-
like that just like add on to like how much of a masterpiece this game is, because
Absolutely.
it's all those little bits and pieces that you're like a musician not stopping to play their instrument and it dropping out of the music that's playing. Them talking about the weather all the time. Like, it's like you play so many open world games where it doesn't feel like the people are real people in the world.
Yeah.
And despite how weird some of the characters look in this game, some weird looking characters, which I learned today is because they use an upgrade. Oh, you said it to me. That's right.
Yes.
The characters use an upgraded like version of the Mii engine, so they just have created like weird ass Miis, which is why all the faces look so odd in this game. Which
Yeah,
is great.
they're just literally me characters. It's
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, this video that I sent to you basically says, like, you will not be able to unsee it now when you go back in and start playing.
Totally.
Tears of the Kingdom. So
but yeah,
funny.
it's like it's so they've got these weird ass looking characters, but it feels like they live within the world, and like everyone talks about like they're in the world. You go around, there's so many quests, so much else happening within this world, despite the fact that you're going on this big adventure to find Zelda, save Ganon, like kill Ganon and all those kind of things. But it's like there's also just like an election in Hateno Village.
Oh,
and
I haven't done that side yet.
And there's like a family in Kakariko Village where the grandma is dying, and so you need to make them porridge.
I did that
and
one.
It's like stuff like that where it's like I'm so impressed at their ability to make. Again, we touched on it multiple times. Breath of the Wild, fantastic game, but like all this like extra stuff, the side quests, this like story is extra stuff, but like that wasn't there in Breath of the Wild, and you get why, because it was a massive undertaking. They're just like completely reinventing what Zelda is. But the fact that they went back for a sequel and were like, all right, well, we've got the engine, we've got all that stuff working, so what do? Oh, we just polish the fuck out of everything else in this game and just make it like everything else is just so good, except the save system. Again, and the horses. Why can't I summon my horse anywhere? Anyway.
Yes. Yeah, I thought I was doing something wrong. I thought there was something that I should do to be able to whistle for my horse, but
I have 2 complaints with this game, maybe 3, but like, you know, that's it. But yeah, the fact is that like people like, how do they make a better game than Breath of the Wild? How is it ever possible this game is going to be Breath of the Wild? Turns out the solution was, one, come up with some even cooler abilities than the ones in Breath of the Wild, which was very impressive. They somehow managed to do that. But then the other part of it was, oh no, just like all the bits of Breath of the Wild that people kind of agree weren't that great, we're just going to like improve all of them a little bit. I would say even the weapon degradation, which is still in the game, but I would say the fact that Fuse is in the game and you can just make really powerful weapons all the time kind of like fixes that to an element. I know for some people it's still a put off, but it's like they identified everything about what would make a better version of Breath of the Wild and put that into a sequel, and did it in 6 years, which I know sounds like a lot of time, but it's not considering how big this game is. Like, and considering just the level of detail that's gone into it, it's so impressive.
Yeah, it's so solid. Yeah, I guess speaking of these random little side stories, that this is kind of my last big talking point. Was at the Foothill Stable, one of the other newspaper side missions. There was a research group that thought that Zelda had told them to continue their work in their underwear.
Yep.
Have you done this side mission?
I don't think I finished it, but you can tell me about it anyway, because I don't mind.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know whether to spoil why they're in their underwear.
I mean, I could go back and do it, and we could talk about it next time. Do you want me to do that so that, or you can just tell me?
We can do that.
Or you can tell me. I don't mind.
Are you sure?
Just tell me, because I'll go and do it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's one researcher. So all the people working in their underwear are all guys. There's one female researcher. And after you do the whole mission, they all come back together, and there's one female researcher who is fully clothed, and she's like, "Why are you all in your underwear?" This is right at the end, and they're like, "Didn't you hear what Zelda said? She said, you know, we have to work in our underpants, like explore in your underpants." And she's like, "No, she didn't say that. She said you have to explore all other paths, not explore in your underpants." Very dumb. Very dumb little side thing. Yeah. Anyway, after that, it just like it continued on just a little bit. So after that, there was one guy in that research group who, you know, was wearing his underpants. Yeah. And he's inside the stable, and he talks about how he lost one of his friends, like near another, near a different stable. Sort of explains it. So I went there to like this bridge near a stable, and there was a well there. And I, you know, could hear something coming from the well, so I went down, and there's this guy in the well. And he's like, I've been stuck here for ages. I was with one of my friends, but I wanted to come down here and explore it.
Yeah.
And then the ladder broke, so I can't get out. So you got to fix the ladder. You got to glue the ladder back on. And then he goes, cool, thank you so much. I'm going to go back and meet my friend at Foothill Stable. So that was the end. He gave you some stuff. That was the end of the quest. There was no more of that. But I decided to go back to Foothill Stable and see whether they were like together having a chat. And they were, which like that's just another great part of this little thing is they're like, I'm going to be over here. The mission's done. There's no more to do. You're not going to get anything more. They've given you all of their rewards.
Totally.
But yeah, you go there and you've got,
the people don't vanish. They still exist.
Stuff.
And,
they
all
still
remember
around.
the stuff. Whenever you go back to talk to anyone you've previously done a quest with or interacted with in a quest, just like going back to like, I went back to the Gerudo village recently and was like, just talking to people there. And I was like, oh yeah, they were like talking about stuff I did at the start of the game with them. And I was like, I did do that with you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all other games don't do this, but there is a tendency in a lot of games to be like, the quest is done. Now they forget you ever talked to them. And it's like, it's again, the details that they add onto each other to just make it fantastic. And
Yeah, and when I interacted with these guys afterwards, you sort of go and talk to them and they continue to have their conversation with each other.
Yeah.
And they both tell each other their funny stories and they're like laughing at each other about these stories because they're like, you broke the ladder and like went down the well and it was like, well, you were working in your underpants because you misheard Zelda, and like they're just having this back and forth about it. It's really fun. Yeah. I love it. And also at some of the stables there was a bunch of people that lived in Hyrulian village. So after I defeated the all the moblins at Hyrulian village, I didn't immediately restore it all. But then I started doing all the newspaper side missions, and I would talk to these people that lived in the place, and they're like, oh, like I can't even go back home. And then Link stops and does his like silent trying to tell someone something, but there's no noise for us. And they're like, whoa, like you defeated them all. Wow, that's amazing. But they don't go back immediately because Hyrulian village hasn't been restored yet. Yeah. So after you restore it, some of them come back and they're like, thanks so much for telling me at the stable that you did this. So they remember that you had spoken to them somewhere else.
Yeah, totally. That's so good.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's not even part of a mission or anything.
Yeah. I do need to go back and finish rebuilding their town because that is a cool little task to do. The only other real thing, which I briefly mentioned earlier, that I also did this week was I went back to the Great Deku Tree and like helped the Koroks. Because whenever I started going to Koroks and they started saying like, oh, I hear stuff's going wrong at the tree. And I was like, all right, I should go back. I knew there was stuff going on there, but I was like, all right, I should probably go back there. But I will say I did know how to get into the forest initially. I don't know how much you know about that, so I'm not going to say anything.
Is it different to Breath of the Wild?
It's different to Breath of the Wild. So I did find out in advance how you get in there, and so that did make it a lot quicker. And I also had the Master Sword already, which also kind of like sped that all up, because it's in the Great Deku Tree is where you pick up the Master Sword normally, so it's kind of tied into that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you did it after... Wait.
I did it after. Yeah.
After you finished the game?
No, not after I finished the game. Just after I'd already collected the Master Sword.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you would understand the Master Sword is elsewhere.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Do you just naturally get it along the main storyline?
Kind of. It's interesting. Yes. If you go and do the Great Deku stuff, it'll lead you towards it for sure. But yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. I got it after doing all the memories, because that's when I went and said hi to the Zelda dragon. Gotcha. So yeah. I'm trying to like tiptoe around, because you kind of know, but you also don't fully know. So I'm trying to.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was cool. It's fun
Nice.
little quest
So,
line that you can.
Where is the Deku again?
It's in the middle of the Hyrule Forest, which is up near Goron Mountain. Not
Yeah,
Hyrule
okay.
Forest, the Great Forest. Korok Forest? I can't remember exactly what its name is.
Cool. And I've only ever found Susu, whatever his name is, the Maraca guy. I've only ever found him once.
He goes back to the main town.
After the first time.
Lookout Landing, yeah. He's back there. So if you want to go...
He's in Lookout Landing?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, no, you would have just missed him. And it happened for me for a while as well. So don't feel too bad about it. He'll be in Lookout Landing.
I've already upgraded like one weapon.
Oh, you poor
slot.
thing. You have 21 hearts, but you only have one extra weapon slot.
23 hearts. Ah, man. Okay, cool. I can get more shields now.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Very good.
Stoked. All right, I'm going to do that. And then... Yeah. Great.
Write your little list of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to start going through our Discord. Because people have been posting stuff in there since our last episode, which I posted on Sunday. And there was a big conversation that was sparked because Nigrotex said that he was listening to the podcast and he heard you say that stamina isn't important and went a bit crazy. Which I've largely backed you up on that statement. I haven't. I definitely went a bit harder into stamina initially than I think you did. But I've also prioritized hearts over anything. You saw by my end of game stats, I had like 19 hearts and maybe 7 stamina upgrades or whatever. So definitely was prioritizing them as well. But it's interesting because Nigrotex was talking about he felt like it made a lot of the game easier, such as like climbing. You could just leap up stuff instead of having to like manage out your stamina.
Yeah, I still do that now, and I've got 2.
No, I know, but it definitely helps it if you're going up a really big thing.
Yeah, I guess.
But then running at max speed for a long amount of time, which for someone who runs almost everywhere, that is a fair point. It's a fair point.
Look, I agree. I think my thing is like he then went back on it when he realized I had done none of the
Well, yeah, totally.
fairies, so I hadn't
Totally.
upgraded anything yet, and I still haven't after doing all the fairies.
Yeah.
But
And I think the other thing he mentioned was you can obviously like swing your weapon around in circles over and over, like keep going, and that can be really good for like bosses and stuff. And rocks and caves. That's the thing I found it once I got more stamina. That was what it was super useful for. Was just like clearing those big cave blockages a lot.
I still don't even do that much. Any of that. I just spam buttons and jump around.
My thing is, I forget that the charge exists. Is my problem.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So that's why I forget to do that. But
So, see, a lot of those things, to me, they're speeding up the game, but I need to not die.
Totally.
So, like, I guess if you are using the spinny, like the charge attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
I have not been doing that. But yeah, when it's like, running further, I guess I'm going to be a few seconds behind you by the time we reach the location. Or it'll take
it's
me
interesting
an extra few
because
seconds
your argument
to get to the top
also
of a...
goes his way, where like to him, because he talked about the reason he tends to not focus that much on hearts is because he was upgrading armor super early on, which we've talked about. We only both completed all the fountains this week, and you only did any of them this week for the first time.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is, once we like talked a little bit about him with it and how like, my thing with that is I feel like our way of engaging with the game, not saying is the correct way, again, we've talked about you can engage with this game however you want, it's just the more common way, which I feel like is why we more generally said it doesn't matter. Because I feel like for a lot of people, they won't engage in that fairyline quest because it's a side thing. It's not, you're not pushed along that. Whereas you're pushed to do shrines, it's like a very core part of the game loop. But he made the point that as soon as like you upgrade an armor piece, like stuff damages you a lot less. And I noticed this when I was doing like final boss stuff and I was putting on I ended up being like, all right, what's my highest upgraded armor piece? I don't even care what its effect is. I just want like the protection. And I was like, wow, I'm not taking any damage, which was definitely super useful. But I guess, yeah, totally. It's the thing. So for him, getting extra hearts is exactly what you said, where it's improving the game, like it's improving quality of life, but it's not actually doing much for him.
Yeah, fair.
Whereas for you, that's what all the stamina stuff is. So, and it's a totally reasonable trade-off.
My hearts are my upgrade, like are my armor. Yeah, essentially.
I think it's like, again, says a big testament to how well the game works, that there is that very even trade-off. Now we talk about it, it's like either way is valid. And the other interesting thing, which I feel like also plays into this dynamic a little bit, is gloom in this game and how gloom takes away your hearts. And Nicotex did mention later on that he did realize he had to start focusing hearts a little bit more because gloom would actually take away the amount of hearts you could even use.
Yeah, sure.
So there is a point at which it's not just armor, it's about, well, once you start getting hit by enemies in the depths, you're out of, like, you're at like 1 heart all of a sudden. And I will say, towards the end of the game, and after spending a lot more time in the depths, you get hit by like 1 arrow from 1 random enemy in the depths. Suddenly you lose like 3 of your hearts because they were all like gloom afflicted.
Jeez.
And it's like rough. It's incredibly rough.
Right.
So it's totally, I'm glad I focused hearts as much as I did in the end, especially given that I wanted to kind of finish the game as quickly as I did. I had a look earlier. Still took me 75 hours.
Yeah,
Still a lot of time. But like, I think with my way of engaging with it, and where I was like kind of doing the fight, like kind of doing the main story pretty quickly compared to a lot of other people, I think I probably needed all those hearts over the stamina. Would be nice to run a bit faster, but I'm glad I had all the hearts for sure. But yeah, cool. I do, now that I look back at it, I'm like, man, if I had upgraded my armor quicker, how things might have changed.
100%.
There's also a bunch of armor sets that, like, I know I still want to upgrade because they all get like unique bonuses once you get them to a certain tier and stuff, and I want to find out what those are. So yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, I haven't found much armor, or like armor sets. I haven't found many full sets yet.
That's another little mini game that I'm excited to. I'm going to try and like fill out my armor sets and stuff though, because I've got some full sets, but I don't have too many.
Cool. Nice.
But yeah. And yeah, that was the big conversation of the week in the Hyrulian Hijinks channel. I think Luke did say... It was
the one time that I actually interacted with it.
You engaged in the channel.
Because I was called out.
Yeah, you were called
out by Nicro.
Yeah. I do think, I feel like I saw Luke, maybe he didn't post it in here. Oh no, 250, he's at 250 hours. Now he's done crazy. All the temples and is currently up to the quest after the 4 main temples, and yet to actually fight a single Gleok or a big frog, and maybe only 1 Lionel, which he bailed on.
I also haven't done any of those.
My first time I fought a Lionel was in the lead up to the final boss. So there was a Lionel that was in the way that I kind of had to fight. I did not fight a Lionel. I barely came across any. I kept talking to people who are like, these bloody Lionels. And I was like, how are you coming across Lionels? For ages, I was convinced they were all scamming me. They didn't exist in this game. Till I finally saw one. I was like, okay, it's fine. But I did not fight a single Lionel until the like lead up bit to the final boss, where there's just a bunch of enemies beforehand. And that was like a full-on white Lionel. It was one of the strongest ones, and it was...
Oh, no.
It was tough, but I was good at dodging, so...
Nice. I've only fought... Out of all of those, I've only fought, like, a giant frog in the depths.
Yeah. I like fighting the frogs. I've fought quite a lot of frogs. I like how they bounce you up, and then I shoot their eyeball again, and I just, like, chain stun them, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And then... Luke did say, and I think we finally have somewhat of an answer to how many hours. He said, a lot of those hours is absolutely me just leaving the game on idle and becoming distracted. It's definitely not an accurate reflection. So I'm curious, but it's still a lot of hours. And I'm going to say, like, even if that's 50 hours on idle, he still played 200 hours. That's more than double.
Yeah. And it's still, like... 2 weeks or 3 weeks of not doing any temples.
Totally.
Like, maybe the hours aren't accurate, but that's still a lot of time to not actually play the main story. I was going to say play the game, but you played the game and just played it in his own way.
For sure. And then the only other chat in that channel this week, Nicotex did add later that the other reason more stamina is great is for firing more arrows when you're in the air, which is also a valid reason. But yes, you have to... That requires a bit of ingenuity to often get yourself in the air, which I found... I felt very smart because I did it at one point because I really needed to get up into the air for something. And I was like, all right, I have to so I fused a bomb to my shield and used that to get me into a place. And I was like, man, I feel so smart, even though plenty of people have probably done that. I was like, so freaking smart. I'm a genius, Josh.
So good. You are, Ben, I know.
And then, also that once you get the bargainer statues, they can help you reacquire unique consumables, which is very useful because I did break some unique weapons and stuff. So,
cool.
There's the Fierce Deity sword, which you get for completing that set, and Big Goron sword, and there's a few other unique swords and stuff. So, Nicotex noticed that for the first time, and it's a very cool thing because, that means you can kind of use them up and then buy them later if you want them in a collection in your house and stuff, which I think is a nice system to kind of mitigate the fact that they can break. The bargainer statues, once you unlock all of them, also give you some other good armor pieces. Highly recommend. There's one set of armor. I'm just going to say what it does because you'll find out soon enough. But there's a set of armor that gives you gloom protection. Not necessarily from enemy attacks, although I have found out if you upgrade it fully, then it does start to protect you from them. Nice. But if it protects you when you're running in the depths and you run over the gloom pools and it starts whittling down, it gives you a few hearts worth of protection before it whittles down your own hearts. So if you're wearing the full set, you've got 3 hearts worth of time to run over it.
Nice.
And so basically my entire exploration in the depths, that's why I went and got all the bargainer statues, because I was like, I need this full set so that I can keep exploring the depths a lot quicker.
Nice.
And that ended up, I think I took that whole set into the final boss because I was able to upgrade it a bunch and stuff. And
cool.
It's a weird looking set, I'll give it that.
Sure.
But,
of course it is, though. It's a freaking gloom set. Sounds
but it was very useful, so I highly recommend having a look at that if you can. You also, because they cost pose, but you get a lot of pose very quickly as soon as you start exploring the depths.
Yeah, 100%. They're everywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the Hijinks, the Hyrulian Hijinks channel in the Discord.
That's it.
You can keep talking in there. We're going to keep making a couple more of these podcasts at least, so we'll keep sharing your stuff, especially if I have less and less to share because I'm not playing the game. I mean, I'll be playing it, but not playing a lot of it, probably, and story and stuff. So yeah, keep sharing your stuff in there. Keep us up to date on where you're up to. If you want to join that, go to patreon.com/each their own. Support us for a couple bucks. Get in the Discord.
Absolutely.
But Josh, have you made your list of your tasks?
I've got a list. It's probably more than I'll be able to do. But basically, continuing with the main story, like I said, very excited to continue that. I'm intrigued by this Deku quest line. So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to upgrade my inventory slots. Because I didn't know I could do that, and I've got so many Koroks to give away. I'm gonna upgrade some armor. Maybe I'll get the bargaining statues, do all the bargaining statues, and upgrade the armor at the same time.
I highly recommend that because it's a good way of exploring the depths as well and fleshing out that bit more.
Yeah, nice. And whilst doing that, also that Master Koga quest line. I've been meaning to do that too.
Yeah, totally.
I've finished a lot of my current side adventures. There's side quests or side stories or whatever, and side adventures. The side adventures are the bigger ones, and I've finished most of those now. I think most of the ones that I have now, I've got maybe 3 left, 3 side adventures. One of them is the people running for mayor of Hyrulian Village.
Yeah.
And the election. And the other one is CC doing some dodgy stuff at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to like follow her. That's
Yep.
one of the other ones. I can't remember what the last one is. But yeah, I don't have many of those left.
So I feel
But
like you can kind of just like mainline through
maybe it's
some story stuff now.
yeah. Maybe that side. Maybe the last side adventure could be the Master Koga one.
Probably is, yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, keen to do that. So yeah, maybe I'll do the bargaining statues and Master Koga at some stage after doing a bit more main story stuff.
I'm so excited to see what order you end up doing it in if you're all done by next week. I'm just very curious what happens now.
Yeah.
Because it's like an open... I know everything. Not everything. I haven't finished some side quests. That's my job, is just to do a bunch of side quests because that's all I can do now. But
Yeah.
I think I'm probably going to try and do Lurelin. I'm probably going to try and do the election one. Those are the two that I've kind of been most interested in. So I think I'm going to go and do those.
Yeah.
You're writing some. I mainly did that so that you have something to write down for me.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. So I got your 2 things.
But yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what order you approach things in now. How long it takes you if you still get distracted, which I assume you will. Yeah, there's a fun road ahead. I'm excited to talk to you all about it because I've had to hold my tongue a bunch. We still managed to go on for an hour, and that's without me talking about the content of what I actually did.
That's
so it'll come at some point.
It's solid.
You'll also, I only started recording the video halfway through, so there'll be some gameplay at the start of this. I really need to get my ADHD sorted out, everyone. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude.
But I started it halfway through. So let's see how it faces for the end.
Good.
But you will have seen some gameplay at the start here. I'm not sure what of. Maybe it'll be of me doing one of those quests, and then you'll come to the end here, and you'll be like, wow, I saw you doing that. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be funny? Who knows? Maybe it will be. Can you add to the list, send email to doctor about ADHD? Please add that to the list.
I did actually just add to your list, start the video recording.
That's also fair. That's also very fair.
I'll check in at the start of next week's podcast.
Yeah.
So it could just be audio at that stage, but
yeah.
I'm going to do it after we've started recording.
It's very funny. It's funny to me that like it's happened again, but it's also kicking the nuts that my brain needs to get sorted out. So I'm actually going to go send that email now before I start streaming, which means I got to go do things. Josh,
go do it. I got to go back to work.
Go back to work.
7 p.m.
That sounds terrible. You can also catch us every Monday at the moment playing Diablo. Played some Diablo 4 last night. It was very fun.
Finally, we got to it.
So yeah,
It was great.
and you
Keen
know,
to jump in again.
that's over on twitch.tv/ETTOnline and also probably on my Twitch as well, twitch.tv/ArgonTV.
That's it. And we're
So we
playing with
tried
our
out a
friend
little
Matt or Grey
co-streaming
Matter.
thing. Yeah. It was fun to play, all three of us. And I think that's it. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope you have a good rest of your day, sleep, morning, afternoon, lunchtime, who knows. Just enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, I've been Ben.
I have been Josh.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Wait. So long.
So long.